Welcome to So I Married a Film Critic. This is your co-host Julia.
And this is Barry, the film critic. How you doing, everybody?
So today we decided to talk about The Mitchells versus the Machines, which is our first animated movie discussion.
Yeah, it's worth discussing. I mean, this is a film that I should say we're recording this in the fall of 2021, which will either people will go, "Oh, fantastic, something recent," or they're going to go, "2021, that was 3 years ago." But in any case, this was a movie that was supposed to come in theaters in I think it was like spring of 2020. It was pushed way back. I believe the original title was Connected or Connection, one of those. And it kind of lingered in limbo for a while because, you know, like a lot of movies that just got pushed way the heck back. They weren't sure what to do with it. Netflix bought it, retitled it The Mitchells versus the Machines, and it was one of their number one choices for a couple months. So now, as the year 2021 is boiling down, this is one of those movies that people kept saying, like, "Have you seen that?" My brother is a huge fan of this. People keep telling me I needed to see it, so we finally made a point to catch up with it.
I have never heard of this movie. I didn't know it was a thing. So clearly I am living in a hole somewhere. But we decided to watch it to see if we would show it to our 6-year-old. And we're not going to show it to her.
Okay, well, we'll start there. Yeah, I mean, so our daughter is, she's a 6-year-old little girl. And yeah, I think it's a little much for her. It's a little frantic and frenetic, which is fine. I think it's great. I think it'll be just a couple years.
Yeah, I think it's for older kids and families.
Older grade school kids, definitely. It has kid appeal, but you know, our little girl is still watching like My Little Pony and Curious George.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep her away from kind of some of the crazier, not crazy in a bad sense, but just the animation is very frenetic.
Yeah, I mean it's kinetic, frenetic. It's caffeinated. I would say highly caffeinated, and this is something I want to talk to you about because I just, in a sense, I feel like I'm just getting older.
Totally. I think in the past we would have related more to the kid characters in this movie. And this time I was like, oh, we're the old parents.
Oh, yeah, we're definitely the parents. Yeah, there's no connection there. And only in the sense that the kids are weird, the family is weird. And we'll talk about the plot in a minute. But I do think watching this, I kept thinking, man, I'm getting older because the movies are getting faster. And that's what happened when Star Wars came out. And there was a whole bunch of old critics going, nope, I can't do this thing anymore. And then all the young critics are going, the future of cinema. And meanwhile, you know, now we're all going like, oh, these movies are too fast. These, you know, and I'm somebody who can't stand Michael Bay movies because I feel like Michael Bay has no attention span at all, and he assumes his audience doesn't, and he cuts his movies that way. And there are times in this film where it's that frenetic. It's
right, but babe, you would be happy watching The Tree of Life every week, which is way too slow for most people, and this is just too fast. So we got to find a happy medium.
When I was in college, Julia, I watched a 3.5-hour movie where a man paints a naked woman in real time.
Yeah, but you don't recommend it.
No, but I always tell people I've seen it, which is, it's kind of like climbing Everest. It's really not an enviable thing. It's like, oh, you've done that. Okay, it's something you've done with your life. You watched a 3.5-hour movie.
No, people envy people who climb Everest. People
which
do
is
not
crazy
envy
because
what
people who like come down from Everest, they're missing feet, they're missing fingers. I just watched a 3.5-hour movie where paint literally dries in front of your face as you watch it.
Yeah, that's.
With all due respect to everyone who's climbed Everest, you're heroes, and that's amazing. But really, you should see this movie where paint dries for 3.5 hours in real time.
What's it called?
I'm blanking on the name.
Okay. You don't need to see it.
It's a French name. I can't think of it.
All right. Wow. Stumped the film critic. That never happens.
It's late. I don't think about it much. I just know that I've seen it. And Emmanuelle Barrett, who's gorgeous, is naked in it for 3.5 hours, which gets old after about 2 minutes. And we're watching her being painted in real time.
Oh, man. Okay.
Film classes can teach you a lot.
All right.
And I don't even remember the name of that film, so clearly I learned nothing from that film.
Well, back to the Mitchells versus the Machines,
which is such a similar film. So yeah, this is so it's let's see, it's what is the name of the animation studio? It is Sony Pictures Animation. So of course this is the production company that gave us Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. This is a very similar style. It feels like the animation is reflecting the restless energy of the movie. It's reflecting the restless energy, even the mindset of the characters. And I want to say really quickly, I mean, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, if you only see one Spider-Man movie in your life, that's how much I love that movie.
It's really good. I even liked it.
It's the best. Tobey Maguire, great. Andrew Garfield, really good. Tom Holland, I can't stand him. I think Spider-Man is just one of these franchises that just it's a lot of peaks and valleys. But man, Spider-Man in Spider-Verse, a masterpiece. Love it. And this is the feel is very similar in this one.
Okay, well, so The Mitchells versus the Machines is about a quirky family, and there's a mom who is voiced by Maya Rudolph, and she's, the quirky mom who's a, first grade teacher. And then they have a son. And then kind of the story revolves around the father-daughter relationship. And the dad, voiced by Danny McBride, is hilarious. And, the daughter is Abby. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. You looked it up. Okay.
I did.
So basically, Katie, the daughter, is going off to college, and she's really excited. She's going to film school, and it shows all of her quirky films that she makes. They do a lot of fun things with their dog, who is basically, there's a lot of funny things with the dog, but he's kind of cross-eyed, kind of googly-eyed, and she has a fun YouTube channel where she makes just her little short films. So, and then the dad, he's really into outdoor stuff. He's, tries to take them on all these adventures and make sure they're prepared for emergencies. Just like a typical outdoorsy dad. And him and the daughter, they just do not understand each other.
Yeah, it's a lovely dynamic because it's obviously very relatable, because on the one hand, it is making the point that this girl is so creative and wonderful, just a real original human being, and a real original character, by the way, for an animated movie. This is not a character I've seen before, and the fact that she and her brother are so strange, it harkens back to me the thing that I love about Lilo and Stitch, which no one remembers. People remember, the Elvis alien. They remember all the goofy Hawaiian stuff. They're forgetting that Lilo and Stitch is about a really weird little girl who has this really tender but also prickly relationship with her older sister who's struggling to keep them going. I love that aspect about the movie. It's the thing that I think makes it one of the best Disney movies the last 20 or so years. And I saw that in this too, because these kids are really weird. And that's obviously something that means so much to me, because I was a very strange kid as well.
The little boy, he loves dinosaurs. He's obsessed with dinosaurs.
He has an inability to talk to girls, which is very close to home for me. I felt like this movie was judging me at times. I definitely saw, not only a lot of myself, but also just any kid who grew up feeling like an outsider, but also just so creative that it's to an embarrassing degree.
Yeah, and one of the things that Katie talks about in the beginning is why she's so excited to go to film school is she's finally excited to meet her people. She keeps saying, a community who understands her, friends with the same interests. And she's going to California, and, the family sits down for dinner, and the dad comes home. This is the night before she's supposed to leave, and they're all staring at their phones. And the dad's like, let's put our phones away and stare at each other. And it's just like one of the funny moments where, technology is hindering their relationships in some way.
Okay, you know what? Brilliant idea. This is our last night together before Katie leaves, so let's savor this. How about we put our phones down and we can make 10 seconds of unobstructed family eye contact. Starting right...
This seems...
Put your phone down. Now. See, this is good right here. This is natural. Now, you're allowed to blink. It's just eye contact. Look at Monts right there. That's the spirit right there, huh? Katie, it seems like you're not taking this seriously.
What makes you say that?
Guys, everyone, focus.
Okay, now that we're all really comfortable, I can't wait for you guys to see my new movie. I think it might be a masterpiece.
It's an interesting thing that this it's a line that this movie kind of it carefully crosses it because, as I told you, I mean, and we'll get into just how satirical this film is, and it's very satirical, but at the same time, it's also a movie about a crushing, omnipresent corporation brought to you by Netflix.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit of irony that this movie can't quite deal with. It's kind of outside of the film, and maybe not the film's fault, perhaps. Because there is a lot going on here where you go, oh man, like they're going after specific targets, and they're going after the specific gap between adults and kids. And some of that has to do with age, but as the movie indicates, absolutely. Sometimes it's just we can't stop staring at our freaking phones. And the movie acknowledges that. And that's valuable, of course. That's been the subject of so many movies and documentaries over the last couple of years. I remember watching a documentary, I think it was called Unplugged, about this very thing, and just how people are addicted to technology and they have an inability to speak with people. But this movie is also celebrating it on the other hand, because technology, as a character even notes, that is what has made this young girl find herself as an artist, create her art.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing they bring up about technology is that, she asked her dad, hey, will you watch my latest film, my latest project? And he's like, oh, not now. I'm, doing this thing. And he just never has time to watch her projects, which I'm like, dude, come on. It's your daughter. You can't even watch her 5-minute YouTube film that she probably spent a week working on. Because they show these montages of her, with like, I don't know what it's like, animation / green screen.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
She's using her dog. I mean, it's all these really creative things.
Filters and animation, all sorts of stuff. Yeah.
And he just, he can't bring himself to watch it. And the scene at the dinner table, he's like, the mom's like, please just, watch her movie, and they're struggling over the laptop, and he lets go of it and it breaks, and she's like, this is just another reason I'm glad to go off to school, you broke my laptop. And so that kind of is the setup for the whole movie, because now the dad has to figure out how to make it up to her.
Yeah, and again, another thing that really cut very close to home for me, my brother Marty and I, especially my brother Marty, who's the producer of the show, we grew up very creative. We constantly, as kids, had a camcorder, especially my brother, camcorder, always filming things and always making skits, always making short films and whatnot. Some of those things my father was a part of, actually. There was actually a movie I made in high school that got me an A in class. My father helped me edit it together using 2 VCRs. That's how long ago this was. And there are also films that my parents have appeared in. But at the same time, there have also been things that Marty and I have done as, like, Dad, look at this thing we did. And they just don't get it at all. And that's devastating when you bomb in front of your parents, when they don't think it's funny, or they don't quite get what you're going for, or like, like, I don't know. What is this? Yeah, that's, so I've been, on the one hand, like, I think, as you know, both my parents, very encouraging for the most part of Marty and I, of how creative and goofy and kind of like exploratory we've been as creatives. But we've also felt the opposite of that. And this movie knows the agony of bombing at the kitchen table.
And it's the generational gap that I think every child feels with their parent at some point, where you just think, oh, you just don't get it. You don't get me. You don't know what I'm trying to do. And the dad said, do you have a backup plan? Like, are you going to be able to make money? And that's always, I think, the parent's role of like, hey, I just want to make sure you can take care of yourself, because if something happens to me, are you going to be okay in this world? And I think that's the gap there, because as adolescents, teenagers, young adults, we're just like, the world is, there's so many possibilities out there. And maybe younger people today don't feel that as much because of just the world we live in and how it's harder to get a good job and, find affordable places to rent, that kind of thing. But I still think there is that gap of, hey, I have my whole life ahead of me. Let me explore this. And parents are like, okay, how long is this going to go on for?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, the movie is very thoughtful about that, because Mr. Mitchell is a good man. He's a good father. He's an odd guy and quirky like everybody else in this family, but he is a good person. It's just the way that he expresses himself sometimes. He says exactly the wrong thing at the perfect moment, which is what you're indicating when they have this. It's kind of the moment that kicks us into the second act, and we realize why our protagonist, why she really needs to get away and find her own voice, because at times, because she's around her family that doesn't always get her, she is being stifled versus, being with,
like-minded people
who are really going to get her, and she's going to, nurture and really evolve as an artist. And clearly, you can only do so many funny videos at home, but her funny videos are what's launching her, and she's already finding an audience via the internet and via that presence. And it's interesting, because it's one of these things that dates me, because my thing was always about just getting the thing done. And this is definitely the next generational mindset of your stuff needs to be seen, it needs to be encountered, it needs to be experienced. I mean, even doing this podcast with you, it's like, this is interesting, because for me, like, hey, just the fact that we did a podcast, that's great. We have an episode. But then it's like, oh man, people are going to listen to this. What will they think? How many people have watched it? Oh, 2? Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
okay.
5 people total have heard our podcast.
Okay, that takes some of the pressure off. No one's listening to this. That's okay. I can live with that. Yeah, but no, it's interesting. I mean, it is interesting to comment on the very modern sensibility of how art is experienced, how art is shared, how art is commented, how art is valued, in a way that's obviously, very much.
Well, yeah, because when you and Marty made your videos, you were showing what? Your neighborhood friends?
My neighborhood friends,
your parents.
classmates. Yeah, we also made tape.
I mean, you weren't uploading it for the world to potentially see.
No, and thank God thank God those things languishing in obscurity as we speak. May they forever collect dust.
In an attic somewhere.
Yes, if my daughter one day is like, what kind of things did you do when your brother and you were kids? I'll be like, well, dust off the tape cassette. And she'll be like, oh, this hasn't aged well at all. I'm sure. But yeah, no, you're right.
Okay, so the brilliant idea that the dad has is, let's cancel her plane ticket to college and take a road trip. And I mean, we know they're going to California. We don't really know where they're starting. We know they end up in Kansas somewhere and then in Colorado. So they're somewhere in the middle of America driving to LA. And she is just like, are you serious? I'm going to miss orientation week. I'm missing mixers. Who remembers college mixers? Oh, man.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would have been fine missing out on mixers, but,
Oh, I loved orientation, all that stuff. I still have photos of me under a tent. We're all holding candles, which to me is the most insane thing. Giving a bunch of wily, freshmen fire. We're all holding
in a tent?
In a tent. My gosh. And they still do this at this college, which I won't name, but they still do it every single year for orientation week. The tent goes up and you can see, it looks like, it's beautiful, like a little candle underneath. But it's a fire hazard. It's dangerous. And a bunch of like 18-year-old freshmen.
No, my freshman year of college was me introducing myself and everyone going, Julia? Like Julia Gulia? That's funny. So I had to hear that for months. And I was over it. I was so over it. I was like,
you should be a freshman now, because that reference doesn't fly anymore.
I know.
The wedding singer has not carried over.
Exactly, but it came out. When did it come out?
That was 98. So
that's when.
Spanking new.
It had just come out. That summer?
Yeah.
And then I went to college, and it ruined orientation for me.
So I think Julia now, people like Julia Roberts, or I don't know. I feel like there's something else. There's another connotation.
No, now nobody says anything, thankfully. It's just normal. But yeah.
Because now, like, my name is like, oh, like the Bill Hader show. Cool. You ever hurt anybody?
Nobody has ever said that to you.
Not yet.
Okay.
No, my Aunt Grace has.
Oh.
She sent me a text. She's like, are you aware there's a show about a guy who kills people and it's called Barry? Like, thanks, Aunt Grace.
Wow. Okay.
So anyway, the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Yeah, they're going on a road trip, and then
B plot kicks in.
B plot, which is the rise of the machine.
This is fantastic. So this is a character named Mark, who is a lot like Mark Zuckerberg and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates rolled into one. He's
all
young.
evil. No.
He's young. He's obnoxious. He's incredibly
selfish.
Just cocky and narcissistic. And he has. We could talk about what it is exactly, but the thing is, this whole segment of the movie is making fun of Apple and Amazon and
Facebook and
in a
the
sense,
metaverse,
even Netflix. Like there's something very prophetic about all this. Obviously, this was all made prior to the pandemic, but it all feels like this feels very recent.
Feels like it could. This is like could happen.
Because to jump to it, because we don't have to do moment by moment, but the gist of it is he gives a Steve Jobs-like presentation on stage. Everyone's familiar with those Apple presentations and the posturing of it, and the young people in the audience going, woo, yeah, and they're all watching it with their phones and filming with their phones. And he makes an offhand joke. Mark, the creator of PAL Labs, he makes a joke that like, oh, don't worry, the robots won't turn evil, which is hilarious because of course that's the moment where they do turn evil and they take
basically over. His phone that he created, it's like his virtual assistant. He
breaks her heart.
Yeah, he's like, I don't need you anymore, and like throws her away. And then he unleashes these robots, and he's basically like, now your robot is your phone basically, but it will also clean for you, cook for you, do all this stuff for you. And people are like, wow.
I created you when I was a young man 3 years ago, and I always thought of you as like family to me. Seriously.
I always felt that way too, Mark.
Whatever happens out there, I will never forget you, pal.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Boom!
Wish me luck. At PAL Labs, we're all about connecting you to the people you love. Whether it's in your home, your car, hello, Mark, or your pocket. That's why we created PAL, the world's first smart personal assistant. We wanted her to be a new member of your family, a smarter one.
I'll always be there for you, Mark.
Thanks, pal. Aww. And after all those years, she is completely obsolete. Move! It is time to move on, because your digital assistant just got an upgrade. Meet PAL Max, the newest member of the PAL Labs family.
So his phone, her heart is broken, and she turns the robots against everyone. And basically the robots go out into the world and collect all the people and put them into
little cubes.
They're like
holding cells.
Holding cells. Yeah. And the only people that manage to escape it are the Mitchells. Yeah.
And I got to say, like, one of the things that I thought was really wonderful to actually see it visualized for as long as I can remember. My argument of why I never thought the Terminator and Cyberdyne and all that was scary, because the joke I've been saying for years stubbornly, I just thought, my phone barely works. I'm not afraid of when the machine uprising. I'm not afraid of a toaster. I'm not afraid of like household appliances.
You're not afraid of smart appliances?
Right. And this movie literally shows you what would happen if your toaster turned against you. Yeah. I thought, that's wonderful. I've been joking about this for the longest time, and to actually see it, it's really funny and kind of plausible. Most of the stuff in this, I mean, as we were watching, we're going, man, this is like, it's funny, but this feels a little plausible.
Yeah, it's funny, and you know that it's an animation.
It's satire.
And it's satire, but at the same time, I don't know. I've seen robots on different videos, like they've created like robot dogs
or walking robots.
Different things. And it's like, I don't know if we're too far off from these like humanoid robot looking creatures that could turn on us.
And there's that famous story of, excuse me, of course, the computer that beat a man at chess. I mean, there's all these indications that, transcendence is going to happen, that eventually there will be the cutoff point where they're just like, okay, we know more than you, we're better than you, and we're going to.
And the virtual assistant, who the evil queen, I guess, is what she is.
Voiced by Olivia Colman, Oscar-winning Olivia Colman of The Favorite. By the way, her performance is my favorite thing about The Favorite, and she's a wonderful actress.
So she says, why do we even need humans? Yeah. Like, give me a reason. And I think Mark says, love. And she's like, terrible answer, So she is going to continue with her plan. And yeah, so the Mitchells somehow escape by hiding in an ice box so that they can't be detected. And I think this is when they try to enact their plan or Katie's plan. She has a whole plan somehow. And then these two dummy robots kind of join their team. Like they kind of malfunction and become their servants in a way.
Yeah, I think it's handled pretty well. I mean, they're meant to be comic relief. Maybe more could have come of that. I mean, really, that aspect of it is probably more about plot necessity than anything.
Right.
But yeah, I thought it was handled fairly well. I mean, I still feel like the family, not only is the family so much more consistently funny as a unit, but also like I felt like some of the other characters that occasionally come into the focus, I just felt like this core group is so funny and interesting. They don't even need a lot of the other characters that kind of show up.
There's another family, the Posey family.
Like a rival family, yeah.
And they're perfect. They're like the Instagram perfect family.
Literally, yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Instagram and YouTube get big shout outs in this movie.
Exactly. And the mom, she's like, oh, there's the Posies. Oh, I just saw them on Instagram. They're on a vacation together. And, everything they do is perfect. And they're like even a picture they take in a parking lot at the gas station is like the best picture ever, And every picture that the Mitchells take is something's always going wrong and somebody's making a funny face. And so that's kind of, just like a funny aside. But it does point out how, we look at people's lives through their highlight reel.
Yeah.
And that jealousy that people feel, because these are their real life neighbors, but she's also following them on Instagram. And so she's watching them go on vacation and, so it does talk a little bit about that aspect of reality versus, Instagram reality.
I do feel like the film misses a huge opportunity with those characters, though, especially because they keep coming up. We need to see the obvious reality that the Posies are kind of fake, or I was waiting for the reveal that they've been following the Mitchells because they're actually obsessed with them and really they're losers who look great and have like fake. I kept waiting for some kind of payoff. I thought it was really kind of limited the way they just make them annoyingly perfect, and I thought that, maybe be a little more realistic about this.
Yeah, because everyone has probably had that experience where you've been watching somebody on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, and then you hang out with them in real life and you're like, oh, this is just like my life.
Well, that reminds me, I mean, I told you about years ago when I was working at a 5-star restaurant and I served a lady who you had followed on Instagram. She was an influencer.
Yeah. And
you said, oh, she's going to be at the restaurant you're working at today, and she's a big deal. I never heard of this person, but you showed me. I'm like, oh, okay, she's big.
And she's not somebody that is like a name. She's just somebody.
She's not a Kardashian, but nevertheless, she had quite the following, and you knew who she was. So I said, okay. So sure enough, I wound up serving that table a great deal. And as I told you, the thing that really jumped out at me, beautiful lady, and she had her husband with her. And the entire time, because I watched the table, not only because I was serving the table, but because it was right there. And, it was one of these things where you're kind of watching the customers, whatever. Not weird or anything. But
well, when you work in a restaurant, that's what you have to do. Checking everybody.
Yeah. And I was assisting the server. Anyway, she was on her phone just about the entire time. I mean, he's just sitting there kind of looking off, and this is, it's a beautiful restaurant. He's kind of looking off at the scenery, and, and she won't stop tweeting on her phone, like just will not stop the whole time. And I thought, wow, this is what it's like being an internet celebrity. You're just constantly updating, constantly, feeding the machine.
Yeah. I got to take a picture of this food and this dessert and my drink. And, oh, now we're going to do a boomerang with our cheers, And
I think, just to kind of bury the lead a little bit, I like this movie a lot, but I do feel like it's one of these things where the movie addresses this, but also misses that opportunity with the Posey family.
Yeah. Totally. Especially at the end, there's not really a great payoff with them.
Yeah, not at all. And there should be.
Yeah.
Because in a sense, they are like the rivals, in a sense.
Yeah, but it really, it's the Mitchells versus the machine. So
Sure.
most of this movie is about that. But these are just, it was just an observation of like, oh yeah, that was a missed opportunity.
The film is striking in its design, although I think as a screenplay, it's really strong. Design-wise, I mean, there are aspects here that will be familiar. And I'm not to say that the film isn't original. It certainly is. But, I'm watching and I'm thinking like, oh, these robots are, they look like the stormtroopers from the Star Wars prequels. And it's kind of the idea that they're kind of stumbling and silly in some ways. The attack on Earth, when we eventually see the attack happen, it's very Mars Attacks. Considering how much corporate synergy is in this movie, this is not the Emoji Movie, thank God, but I feel like it just misses that. This is, of course, the two of the producers who worked on this film also did the Lego Movie. I feel like this is better than both of the Lego movies, but it's not quite. And as I said, like, I don't think there's anything more ironic than this movie, which is very much anti-corporation, brought to you by Netflix. But, again, I don't think it zeroes it out. I mean, I think the satire in this movie is really rich, and the things that it has you talk about are really rich. But I don't think it's completely punk rock, and I really would have loved it if it had been a little more. It's not quite edgy, and that's okay. It's a family film for the most part,
Right. Yeah.
but I feel like the satire is great, but at the same time, there's so much corporate synergy going on. It's and obviously, just to even mention YouTube and some of the other corporations in this movie, obviously they're getting
Big bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Well, it's like watching that documentary about how social media is ruining our lives, and then everyone's like on social media, like, did you see that social media documentary about how this very thing we're doing is ruining our lives?
Yeah, and the scenes of characters in the Mitchells versus the Machines where they're staring at their phones and it's telling you not to, and I'm just thinking, how many people are watching this movie on their phones right now?
Yeah. And so that's probably the biggest thing the dad does is he's like, give me your phones, and he smashes them.
Big moment for him, and he's doing it so gleefully, which is a really funny thing, and I'm sure many have wanted to do such a thing.
Yeah, so it's really fun. They do figure out how to fight the machines,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a way to do it, and the robot servants help them basically confirm, yeah, you can do that even though you're probably gonna die. So there's a couple big set pieces,
Yeah, there's a scene at a mall that's a lot of fun.
with
Involves
the Furby.
Oh, I wasn't gonna say it, but okay, yeah, the Furbies.
Oh.
I guess spoilers.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's Furbies are used prominently in the fight, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun.
And all the appliances, the smart appliances.
Yeah, which is the visual I love of attacking toasters and vacuum cleaners and what are those little vacuums that my father has?
Oh yeah.
What are they called?
Oh,
They're little circular ones.
yeah.
I've always thought they were very Terminator-esque, but yeah, you actually see them attack too.
Yeah.
Roomba.
The Roomba.
Yes.
There you go. They have like multiple versions of those, but yeah, I think your dad told me a story about his smart fridge and how it basically told him like at the end of the month like that he opened the door too many times. And I just thought,
That's so judgmental.
I know. And it's supposed to tell you like, hey, you're wasting electricity, like you're wasting energy, but we were both like, hey, don't tell me how often I can open my fridge door, So that's another reason I hope to stay as far away from smart appliances as I can, because I don't want them telling me what to do.
I did not know that story. That's pretty amazing because I'm so analog. It reminds me of in the 80s when my mom and I used to watch the Richard Simmons show. And Richard Simmons, we did. And Richard Simmons used to have this thing where if you you buy my pack and I'll send it to you. So what he used to have, if you bought the Richard Simmons diet pack, it was a poster of him wagging his finger at you going, and you were to put it on your fridge.
Oh my God.
To keep you from
food shame you.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm delighted that a refrigerator does it without a Richard Simmons poster.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Wow.
Out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But ideally, you would have a fridge with Richard Simmons' voice that would shame you.
Oh, and tell you that you've been opening the door too many times.
You shouldn't have this much yogurt at 11 o'clock. Exactly. Yeah. No, I don't know. Why hasn't someone else thought of this?
It's midnight. Why are you opening me up? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that was a good scene in the movie with all the appliances.
Yes. Yeah. They tackle the planet. Yeah. It's very well done. It's a lot of fun. And then we get to the climax of the film, which is a big robot battle. And I don't know, the crazier the movie gets, it's not that I felt distant from it. I've always engaged with it, but it does become so chaotic at times that I was just like, okay, let's get back to the family stuff. This is a lot of action. There
was a part where, so now you have like the machines, and then there's the white ones, the white machines, right? That look like the stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And then
There's
queen,
super
yeah,
duper
then
machines.
she comes out with like another version because she thinks that these other ones aren't really doing their job as well.
I wonder if they thought that we need a little more for the action figure line. Let's make this a little more dynamic.
Totally. So I felt like it went on a little bit longer than it maybe needed to go.
The whole film does. Yeah, because it's nearly 2 hours, and I don't. There's not that there's a ton that I'd cut, but I do think the film runs a little long. It could have been a lot tighter. There's certain scenes, certainly when it's them hunkering down, I feel like the movie could have gone from Act 2 to Act 3 a lot quicker.
Yeah. I did enjoy Maya Rudolph's character when, the machines basically take the son away and she goes mama bear wild.
Totally ballistic. It's great.
Just ballistic. Yeah. And
it's a great joke, and they visualize it by making the movie ultra violent in that moment, in a way to suggest that
she's a killing
robots.
Machine.
They're robots, so they're leaking oil when you cut their heads off. So there's oil splattering.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's like oil.
It becomes like Kill Bill. Yeah, it's great.
So I love that. Just like, don't mess with a mama and her kids.
Yeah,
So that was.
Yeah, because even her son, who she's saving, is terrified of her after she saves him. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Did you want to talk about anything else with the dad and the daughter storyline?
I mean, it's really good. I mean, it's interesting. Because of the nature of the daughter's hobby, there's all this footage that she has access to of her family and the family tree and family footage and whatnot. And they keep going back to this image of the father saying goodbye to the cabin that he built himself, that meant the world to him. And for whatever reason, they had to move away. And they make that very emotional connection that's, on the one hand, he lost that, but on the other hand, he gained, more time with his daughter. I think it works. The film continued to engage me emotionally, even when I thought, it was kind of past that part of it.
Yeah. I enjoyed the part where, because the mom and the son are really trying to get these two back together, so one of them will have an idea and the other one will just be like, ugh, rolling their eyes like, no. And then the mom will hold up like a sign and they'll have to read the words on it.
Yeah, and there's a callback to that. Yeah, really
and
nice.
So it's like they're giving them dialogue to say to each other to like bring them together. And it's silly and it's funny, but it's also really sweet. And it gives them a chance to just see what the other person has to offer, because they're both, the mom and the son are like, can you guys just give each other a chance? You obviously love each other, basically. It's just there's no more understanding anymore.
In terms of, the obvious comparison would be to look at some Pixar films. I think this is a lot more interesting, ambitious, certainly more visually dynamic than so many Pixar films of late. I think probably more than anything just because Pixar has been stuck sequelizing and being stuck with formula. I thought Coco was probably the last great Pixar film. Otherwise, there's just been too many sequels, too many films that are interchangeable. Yeah. But the point I'm getting at is there's a lot of The Incredibles in this movie. Not because it's about superheroes, but the design of each family member and also the dynamic of the family unit and whatnot. I don't think The Incredibles 2 is a bad movie at all. I don't. I never think about it since I've seen it. There's good things about that movie.
I never think about that one either. I did,
yeah, because we saw it and I'm like, this is good.
We were looking through some of your movies and you have Inside Out. And I thought the way that movie talks about feelings, a little bit reminiscent of this, but this goes deeper, I felt.
I agree. I think it does go deeper. And I think it's dealing with the messiness of family life and not being able to fully express yourself as a child and as a parent, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it is constantly, there's this really wonderful contrast between the daughter and the father, how they're actually a lot alike in some ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say, like, I feel like, I think The Incredibles, the first film, is one of the Pixar masterpieces. I think it's perfect. And I think it's perfect because it never loses track of the emotion. And I think this movie is pretty close to that, really close to that. Again, I feel like at times it's so crazy and so aggressively crazy. And again, it made me think, like, am I just getting kind of old? Because I did feel at times that way when I was watching Scott Pilgrim. I thought, I love Scott Pilgrim, but the movie is so aggressive and extreme. And I thought, this could be a little quieter, perhaps.
Yeah. Could you tone
Could
it
we
down?
turn the volume down just a little bit?
Which
Which is, if nothing else dates me tonight, that's definitely...
Yeah.
Scott Pilgrim was too loud for me.
Well, you asked me, should we watch it with the subtitles on? And I said, yeah.
Well, I like that in general, especially if it's a movie, honestly, like, that's a general thing for me and think for us. If it's a movie we have not seen before, our little girl is asleep right now. That way we can turn down the volume, we don't lose anything. And also, there's a lot of films where the subtitles help. I mean, the obvious example, the really obvious one, was the movie Tenet, the Christopher Nolan film.
Oh, yeah. I would not have been able to follow that.
I love that movie, but, I've seen it. It was my third time watching it. I definitely knew what was going on. But without the subtitles, good luck. It's a hard one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no shame in subtitles, I don't think.
No, we're just old. It's fine.
And it's not like we're like reading the subtitles slow, like I don't know what he said. Rewind. No, we're on. We're following. We're watching the movie and reading at the same time. I know, like, for some people that's a real irritation, but no, for me, like, if it's a first time, it's because sometimes characters whisper or the music blares a little much. There's some funny one-liners that we would have missed had the subtitles not.
Yeah, that's true.
So yeah, no, I no shame in that, especially if it's a first time. I mean, obviously, if I see this movie again, I'm probably not gonna watch it with the subtitles, unless Beatrice and you are asleep, and I'm like, I gotta watch the Mitchells versus Machines all by myself.
Yeah, right. Okay, so spoiler, they save the world.
Oh man.
Yeah, no.
Just ruined the entire film.
I did.
Wow.
And it's funny to me that it's like everything just goes right back to normal after that. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, and the film doesn't make any, because it addresses all this stuff, but it doesn't really follow through. Like, well, then what? If we realize that it's a mistake, that everything is smart, that our phones, our toasters, everything is smart, and that the Steve Jobs and Bill Gates of the world are not necessarily the new messiahs, then what do we do?
And that Wi-Fi is ruining our lives.
Wi-Fi is ruining our lives, and staring at our phone, all this thing. No, it basically kind of hits the reset button, and the movies. But
a reset to like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it takes you back to the 80s.
What
or
have we
anything.
learned? Nothing at all. And to the movie's credit, I gotta say, I was afraid they were immediately going to set it up for a sequel. That it was going to be where the Olivia Colman, the robot character would resurface, and it would be like this attack, and the Mitchells would have to, acquire the superhero pose. Basically, the ending of The Incredibles. I was kind of waiting for that, and I'm glad it's a little cute. There's a little more busy work to go through, but really, the movie does actually have an ending, which I thought was nice, as opposed to a setup for a sequel that I don't think would. I think would be unnecessary.
Yeah, like Katie just goes off to college, and now her family is closer to each other, and there's an understanding, and her brother can finally talk to a girl. I mean, it's like it's just normal life.
Yeah, but for all these characters, these are big steps. All of the things. I mean, I think maybe the one character that doesn't have a big evolution, and it's just because her true colors come out, is Mom. I think it's established she's a first grade teacher. I think all of that repressed, everything that's been repressed and built up over the years comes out in her battle against the machines.
Yeah, but I think it kind of is the point that the mom is basically herself the entire time. Like, she's not really hiding anything. She's very quirky, and she loves her family, and she's trying to keep everybody together and keep the mom keeping the kids happy and the husband happy. It's sometimes a fine line. There's, that tightrope that you walk.
Yeah.
And she does a really good job. And she gets to go become a warrior, which, let's face it, moms are warriors sometimes.
No argument here.
Yeah. I mean, I loved it. But yeah, you're right. There's not, at the ending, it's not like she's like, I'm going to quit my job and go do something else.
Right.
I mean, she's just like, gonna go back to being a mom, baking cupcakes.
But yeah, at the end of the film, it not only is she vindicated, not just that the son is able to actually talk to girls, which is a big thing for him, but maybe the bigger thing that the film presents is that father and daughter are really connected. They're really understanding each other. If nothing else, there's just a newfound respect and
yeah. I mean, they have a really sweet moment because he sees one of her YouTube videos and he realizes, oh, she just needs me to support her. She just wants me to say, hey, I'm going to back you up with like whatever you want to do, whoever you're going to be, I'm there for you. And so he finally comes to that place, and she finally just appreciates her dad for basically being a good dad because he's a great guy.
Yeah. No, it's good. Thinking back on this film, I mean, we just saw it a little while ago and then started talking about it. I mean, I think there's so many really funny throwaway gags in this movie. There are times where I wanted to pause because at one point we see all the movies that she's gathering up and taking with her to college, and I saw they had some really funny names. Like one of the films that I caught it really quickly and it flew by really quick. But there's a bunch of parody films in her collection of movies that she made, and one of them was called "The Perks of Being All by Yourself." Yeah, that's fantastic. But it's stuff that goes by so quickly. I mean, again, like
it's just the animators having fun.
Yeah, Lord and Miller. I mean, again, like the style of the Lego Movie. It's like either you get it or you don't. It's going to be one of these films where thankfully for hard media, where you're able to hit pause and frame by frame, you're able to actually see the detail because there's a lot that went into this film.
Yeah. So, how would you change the ending?
I wouldn't. I think the ending is fine because I think changing the ending would mean setting up for a sequel, which I don't really want. If we're going to explore her journey in college as a film student, that's the thing. It's like, I like these characters. I like that they battled the machines and won. I don't really want to see that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's the Mitchells versus the zombies, which would be tired. If it's the Mitchells versus the werewolves, Mitchells versus the dinosaurs. There we go. I'll see that movie.
Isn't there already a movie with dinosaurs?
Yes, it was called Meet the Robinsons.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Which is not great.
No.
It's got that one T-Rex joke, which is hilarious, which everybody knows. And that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
It was very generic.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, no sequel, no change ending. It's fine. It's a great movie. It's really good. But, I can't say I want to encourage the sequel machine because I feel like if anything in Hollywood has not changed over the years, it's that they are itching to make a sequel to anything that people like, anything at all.
Yeah. I mean, I could see them doing an animated series, with like the family maybe before she goes off to college. I could see.
Oh yeah, even in college. Yeah, I agree with you. Like
something quirky like that.
The style of this is so dynamic and aggressively so that I feel like just a normal everyday story about the Mitchells would be enough to make this arresting.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily need the sci-fi element. You really don't. This isn't like, for example, a film I can't stand that our daughter loves. This isn't like Chicken Little, where I want to spend any more time with these characters after they've defeated the sci-fi threat. I hate that film so much. I can't stand the characters. And, whether they defeat the alien menace or not, I couldn't wait for that film to be over. This is not the case. I loved this family. I loved these characters. So if the sequel is about the son going to college and it's a road trip where nothing fantastical happens, I'd be okay with that. But of course, they'll come up with some way to make it bigger, better.
Yes.
Faster.
Always bigger. Always better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So how many stars?
3.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's great. Like I said, I think this is a film that really wants to stick it to Techno Corporation, but the movie is also a celebration of all things techno. So I think there's some ways that
it's real oxymoron.
Yeah, I think in some ways the sharpness of the satire is kind of sanded off because this movie is it's wagging its finger at at the techno universe that we live in, but it's also a complete endorsement of it.
Yeah.
But I liked it a lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. And I don't know if I would have changed anything about it, except maybe make some of the fight scenes between them and the robots just a little shorter, because it got a little crazy.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be so long, but otherwise, I thought it was pretty perfect.
If there's a sequel, I want the Mitchells versus the Posies.
Oh.
I think that would be the way to go. Yeah. I'd be interested in that. And again, exploring the idea that we talked about, how, there's a world of difference between how you position yourself, how you self-document yourself and capture that on Facebook and Instagram versus who you truly are.
Yeah.
Versus the reality past the, the filters and the smiles that are sometimes so fake, and sometimes the lighting that is a little too perfect and doesn't reveal what's really going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right.
Not that we could relate to that. Our smiles are always authentic.
We don't
Our
relate to that at all.
family pictures are always perfection and perfectly...
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
Did you see any of yourself in this? Because one of the things I loved about it, I found it very relatable. Did you find this relatable?
Oh, yeah, totally. I found it relatable. Yeah.
Your dad's kind of a goofus.
My dad.
I can definitely see that. Your mom's a teacher.
Okay, so one of the funny things is that ends up working out in the movie is that the dad gives everybody this like special screwdriver, and he gives it all to them at different times in life as gifts, and it ends up being really handy. And it just made me laugh because I feel like that's kind of my dad. He's like, you should always have like some kind of utility, like knife on you, like a, I don't know, pocket knife. You never know when you're going to need a knife. Gonna cut something or something. So yeah, it definitely, that's a very dad thing that I,
well, especially your dad,
I can relate to.
No, if your father's given me a number of knives over the years, so yeah, I can,
and then if we don't like keep them, he's a little
so
offended.
How's the knife?
Yeah, he's
still using that one. You still keeping it sharp?
He's a little offended.
No,
and I'm like, I don't know. I don't. It's around here somewhere, I think. I don't know.
Well, you should always have it at all times. Yeah.
Sorry, Dad, if you're listening.
Oh, he's never listening to this.
You don't know.
Yeah, it's true. Sorry, Dad. I love the knife.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the whole thing about, just being addicted to your phone and, wanting to like be up to date with everything is definitely relatable.
It's a message we should always keep in mind.
Yeah. I think everybody should. I mean, I thought it was so funny when he made them all put their phones down and just stare at each other awkwardly, and they're like, what's going on with your face? Just, you can be normal. What's happening? And like nobody knows how to interact anymore. So I think it's good to put it down, talk to each other. I mean, you and I do that often.
Yes.
Not just on this podcast, by the way.
Right. Yeah. Thank God for this podcast. We would never even look at each other.
I know.
There's prophetic stuff in this movie. There are times where I thought, man, like this feels like it was made now as opposed to, I guess, 2019, 2018, whenever they made it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, who knows what's going to happen in the future, but I think we may look back on all this technology with a little bit of regret. If
we haven't already.
It helped us to connect, and I can FaceTime with family who live thousands of miles away, and that's great. But what have we missed out on because of this?
And then we'll look back and be like, wow, remember when poking was the thing? Remember when I poked you?
Oh, yeah.
What a good
Facebook
idea that was.
Pokes. That's
poking.
So dumb. Yeah.
And like, will you join? What was the name of it? It was like Farm World or Farmland.
I don't know.
Everybody loved to play a farm game.
Farmville. I never did that.
Whatever it was. Yeah, I never knew.
No. But, now that this like metaverse thing is coming in and people are going to be wearing those virtual glasses more.
I love it. Because we're talking about this now. And again, like, I don't know if people are going to be listening to this podcast in 2021 or 2025.
We have no idea.
Like, oh, they're talking about the meta thing. That didn't go anywhere. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
Maybe it didn't go anywhere, but...
If it's like the new Coke Classic,
Yeah. The Crystal
This
Coke.
podcast is so 2021. They're talking about the metaverse.
No, but you made me lose my train of thought.
Oh, sorry. The metaverse.
No, but maybe we'll look back and go, oh yeah, we really shouldn't have plugged into the Matrix as much as we did.
And trust a nerdy guy named Mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't trust nerdy guys named
Named
Mark who
under any circumstances.
who are selling your information online and trying to get more engagement.
Mark Twain, Mark Zuckerberg, Mark Harmon.
Oh my gosh.
Anyone named Mark.
Wow. I think we should wrap this up because we're just going on some rabbit trails here. But anyways.
Trying to think of more Marks. But,
no.
Okay.
All right. Well, that concludes this episode of So I Married a Film Critic with the Mitchells versus the Machines.
Aloha. Thanks for listening.